Amara slammed the door open so hard it bounced off the wall. Every head in the tutoring center turned. A pencil rolled off a desk. Someone coughed. But Amara didn't care about any of that. She walked straight to the man sitting behind the front desk, planted both hands flat on the surface, and looked him dead in the eyes. "I'm pregnant," she said. "And you're the father." The room went completely silent. The man looked up slowly. His face was calm. Too calm. And something about that calm made Amara's hands start to shake, because she had rehearsed this moment 100 times, and in none of those rehearsals did he just stare at her like she was a stranger. "Amara," he said quietly. She blinked. Something felt off. The way he said her name, careful, like he was learning it for the first time. "Don't," she whispered, her voice dropping. "Don't you dare act like you don't know me." He stood up slowly. "Can we talk? Privately?" She almost said no. But her legs were tired. Her heart was tired. She had been carrying the secret for 3 weeks alone, crying in bathroom stalls between her nursing school classes. So she followed him into the small back office and sat down across from him, arms folded, eyes burning. "Say something," she said. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said the last thing she expected. "I think something very serious has happened. And I need you to hear me, okay? Really hear me. If you are new here, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a story like this one." Now, let's get back to it. His name was Sung-ho Kwon, 28 years old. Adopted from a Seoul orphanage at age 3 by a Korean-American family in Georgia. He had grown up quiet and steady, always feeling like a puzzle with one piece missing, but never able to name which piece. He had never met Amara before today. But as she sat across from him and told her story, every detail, every date, every conversation she thought she'd had with him, Sung-ho felt something cold and electric move through his chest. Because the man she was describing, the man who had held her hand at a cultural exchange event, who had taken her to a little Korean restaurant on Peachtree, who had then vanished without a word, that man had his face. His exact face. He had always had this feeling. This low hum in the back of his mind that he wasn't supposed to be alone. That somewhere in the world, someone wore his face and didn't know it either. He pulled out his adoption file from his phone, the scanned copy he had carried for years, and slid it across the desk to her. At the bottom of the document, in faded ink, were the words, "Baby boy Kwon." One of two. Amara stared at it. Then she looked up at him. "What does that mean?" "It means," Sung-ho said slowly, "that I have a twin brother. Somewhere. And I think you've met him." Amara laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes out when something is too painful to cry about. "So you're telling me," she said, her voice cracking at the edges, "that I've been betrayed by a man I don't even have the right name for." Sung-ho didn't flinch from that. "Yes," he said. "I think so." She stood up. She grabbed her bag. She was done. She was leaving and never coming back, and she was going to figure this out on her own, the way she had figured out everything else in her life, alone, with her own 2 hands. "Amara." She stopped at the door. "You don't have to trust me," Sung-ho said. "You don't owe me anything. But you walked in here alone and you're about to walk out alone, and I don't think that's right. Whatever happened, whoever caused it, you shouldn't have to carry this by yourself." She stood there with her back to him for 5 full seconds. Then she sat back down. If this story is getting to you, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to like the video. Now, let's continue. Trust him. Not even a little. But she came back the next day. And the day after that. And slowly, without either of them planning it, something started to grow between them. Not romance. Not yet. Just honesty. The kind of honesty that only happens between 2 people who have nothing left to perform for each other. Sung-ho hired an adoption search agency. Not to escape responsibility, he told her, but because he needed to know. He needed to find the other piece of the puzzle. Amara, meanwhile, was navigating everything alone. Her mother back in Atlanta didn't know yet. Her classmates didn't know. Every morning she woke up, pressed her hand against her stomach, and thought, "Who are you? And who is your father? And what have I gotten us into?" 6 weeks later, Sung-ho called her. They found him. His name was Jiho Kwon. Born in Seoul. separated from his twin during a rushed international adoption process that nobody had ever bothered to properly document. He had grown up in Los Angeles with a family who loved him but could never explain why he sometimes felt like half a person. He had moved to Atlanta 2 years ago. He had been at that cultural exchange event. He had also been running ever since. The brothers met in a coffee shop in Midtown. Amara didn't go. She waited in Sung-ho's car, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how strange life was, how a woman could do everything right and still end up in a story this complicated. Inside, the two brothers sat across from each other and didn't speak for almost a full minute. They just looked. At the same nose, the same jaw, the same tired eyes. Then Jiho said, "I didn't know about you." "I know," Sung-ho said. "I didn't know I was a twin." "I know that too." Another silence. Then Jiho's voice broke. "I panicked. When she told me she was pregnant, I panicked and I ran, and I know that doesn't explain anything. I know it doesn't make it okay." "No," Sung-ho said quietly. "It doesn't." Jiho wiped his face. "Is she okay?" "She's strong," Sung-ho said. "Stronger than she should have to be." We're at the halfway point, and this story is not done yet. If you haven't subscribed, do it now. You don't want to miss the ending of this one. Amara agreed to meet Jiho 1 week later. She sat across from him at Sung-ho's kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea she hadn't touched, and she looked at the face she had once thought she loved. He looked exactly like Sung-ho, and yet he felt like a stranger. "I'm sorry," Jiho said. His voice was low. He wasn't performing. He was ashamed, and it showed on every part of him. "I don't want your apology," Amara said. "I want you to be there for your child. That's it. That's all I'm asking." "I will be," Jiho said. "I swear it." She nodded slowly. Then she looked at Sung-ho, who had been sitting quietly beside her the whole time, not speaking unless spoken to, just present. Just there. "This man," she said to Jiho, tilting her head towards Sung-ho, "chose me when he had no reason to. He stayed when he could have shut the door in my face. I need you to understand that whatever you and I figure out as co-parents, I have already made my choice." Jiho looked at his brother. Something passed between them, complicated, layered, the language of two men who had just found each other and were already being asked to navigate something enormous. "Man," Jiho said finally. "Yeah," Amara said softly. "He is." Amara's son was born on a rainy Thursday morning. She named him Kofi Sung-kwan. Jiho was in the waiting room. Sung-ho was in the delivery room holding her hand, and when the baby cried for the first time, Amara cried too, not from pain, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Didn't know each other existed were standing in the same hospital hallway. A woman who had walked in with nothing but a storm had walked out with a family. And a little boy opened his eyes to a world that had more love in it than the people around him even knew how to say out loud. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Comment your favorite moment below, and if you're still here at the end, thank you. Subscribe for more stories that remind you that even the most broken beginnings can lead somewhere beautiful.